Hello, namaste. Welcome to my presentation. So, as an introduction to my presentation, I invite you to watch a small video.
That question may be very helpful. So when we look into this flower, which is described as empty, what do we see in the flower? We see the sunshine inside. We see a cloud inside. And you do not need to be a poet in order to see a cloud floating in the flower. You know that without the cloud, there is no rain and no flower can grow. So it's very clear that this flower is not empty. It has many things inside. It's full of sunshine. It's full of cloud. And then you can see the soil, the earth, the minerals, the gardener. And if you continue, you see the whole cosmos have come together and help the flower to manifest as a wonder. So in fact, the flower is full of the cosmos. Why?
Of what? He repeatedly asking during that teaching. So that was an introduction to my presentation. And as you may guess, in this presentation, we are going to talk about one of the most important aspects of the meditation practice, which is emptiness. So, the concept of emptiness, shunyata, was developed and studied by the Indian philosopher Nagarjuna in the 2nd century, and it is a central tenet of the Mahayana tradition. So, what is emptiness? The first thing to understand about emptiness is that things are not what they seem. We think the world is fixed, but it's not. Emptiness means that nothing exists independently. Everything is interdependent, ever-changing and shaped by perception and conditions, including yourself, everything and everyone you know, your job, relationships, your traumas, your memory, the things that you remember from your past, your hopes and plans for the future. What is the future? What is time? Whatever you perceive comes from your own mind. This doesn't mean reality is fake, it means it's filtered. Or experiences, even our identity, arise within our consciousness. We are not seeing the world as it is, we are seeing it as we are. Everything is a projection of our own mind, like an illusion, a hallucination. So, does anything exist? Yes, things do exist, but not independently, not solidly. Everything arises in dependence on causes, on parts, on perception. Joy, pain, people, even your souls, they are waves, not fixed constants. In summary, everything you know depends on three things. First, causes and conditions, like sun, soil, and water for a flower. Second, parts and moments. Nothing is whole in itself. And third, mental labels. Without the mind, names don't exist. And when we understand this, we stop clinging onto things and we start living. One of the biggest misconceptions about emptiness is that it means that nothing exists, and that's not true. Emptiness means that nothing exists independently. You can still laugh, create, cry, dance, pray, but now you do it with wisdom and freedom. You are living consciously now with awareness. You are not trapped in the world of the false I. So, how do we experience that emptiness? Through stillness, we begin to observe the mind in meditation. We see how two thoughts arise and pass. We see how labels, good, bad, me, them, shape our world's perception and attitudes. This awareness becomes wisdom, and this wisdom is freedom. First and foremost, your ultimate goal in meditation is to remove all illusions of the mind. And this is why it is so important for meditators to understand emptiness as soon as possible. In the search of emptiness, the main question is, what is I? What is our original self? How do we find it, or does it even exist? We say, I'm tired, I want, I know, but who is that I? Where is it? Is it the body, the mind, the personality? When we search, we find that there is nothing we can point to that isn't changing, solid, or separate. In Buddhist practice, there is a tool used to explore this illusion of a fixed self. It's called a 4-point analysis. The main task is to identify the I. In meditation, you start scanning your body from head to toe, searching for the I. What do you feel? How does it feel? Why do you feel it? Can you let it go? Does that matter that much? What is happening after you find it? So you scan your body, and now, when you identify the I, the next step is to study it. Is the I the same as your body, your mind? And we go scanning further, again and again and again, until we find another I, and we remove all the false eyes in the process. And that brings you closer to the truth. There is no solid findable I. With the practice of meditation, with the search for the I, we experience more and more emptiness, and the more and more false constructs of the mind are eliminated. And then the I is not the I anymore, and the other one is also not the real I. What then? And you search farther and farther, and it's nothing but only more and more emptiness. And that's when you are desperate and come to the question, who am I then? The self is a label, a projection, like putting a name tag on something. You are a stream of your own thoughts, causes, and conditions, not a defined thing. When you see this clearly, you deconstruct the attachment to many ideas about yourself and the world around you, and the liberation begins. So now, when we know what emptiness is and how to experience it, why does it matter to us? Because that way we remove the false layers of self, remove ignorance and false beliefs, all goes one by one. And as a result, when we see that life is like a dream, an illusion, we become more grounded and more conscious. We let go of pride, fear, and judgment. We begin to live with openness, ease, and compassion. So, which is why we should all try to make meditation or regular practice. It will make wonders in this life and forever. 3 things you need to do. First, meditate on the absence of a fixed self. Second, contemplate interdependence. Third, act with compassion, because nothing is separate. And live as if life were a dream, precious, meaningful, and light, and anything is possible. If you master this insight, it stays with you beyond this life. Even in the bardo, The wisdom of emptiness protects you from ignorance. It allows you to let go, to move freely, to awaken. This is the key to liberation. The path is here, the rest is up to you. So, that is my presentation on emptiness. Very interesting topic. And to conclude this, I would like to read a couple of quotes from this book that I already mentioned in my other presentation. So, first of all, that is worth noticing is that in Buddhist outlines in Lamrim, the topic of emptiness goes like the last one. Okay, so before getting to learn emptiness, you need to go through all of this, and here the emptiness it's the last part. So anyway, I found a couple of nice quotes from Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche from in this book on emptiness, and I would like to wrap my presentation up with it. So Lama Zopa says, the root of all misery is our ignorance of the way in which things actually exist. And Lama Yeshe says, when we realize the absolute nature of our mind, we free ourselves from bondage. The true nature of all phenomena is empty, as opposed to the ego's imagination, which is full. Full of what? Full of concepts, expectations, anxieties, and projections that have nothing to do with reality. Ultimately, all things are empty. Reality is also called voidness. Voidness being the opposite of the solid, concrete world imagined by ego. All phenomena, both samsaric and spiritual, are void by their very nature. Wisdom destroys ignorance by recognizing that there is no inherently existent I. So that's the last words of wisdom. So thank you so much for watching.